Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now, our great friend from Portland, nationally syndicated talk show host Lars Larson. Lars, good morning.
Kevin, good morning to you. How was your weekend?
It was great. You know, I caught your show on Friday, and I'm very interested in your review. You went with your listeners, and I have to figure out how you do it. You do a show in Portland, you do a national show, then you're on the road, then you have time with your family, but you spent Friday night with listeners watching the new Clint Eastwood movie. How was it?
I liked the movie, and I will tell you that if you're going expecting a J.J. Abrams or a real action flick, it's not that. And it has a pacing to it that is probably going to disappoint some people. Let's be honest about that. But remember that the entire incident between these three young men, two of whom had served in the military, and this terrorist on board was over literally in a matter of minutes, probably less than 10. It might have been less than 8 minutes. I don't know that anybody has a precise, nobody's running a stopwatch on it. But if people remember, about 2.5 years ago, there was a train going from Amsterdam to Paris. And these three young Americans who'd agreed to meet up in Europe and that they were going to spend a few weeks just kind of cruising around, seeing the sights, meeting girls, going to clubs, doing all the things that people would do in their 20s, that they were on this train. And this man had boarded the train with a wheelie, a little wheeled suitcase like you'd see in the airports, and he went into a restroom, pulled out it wasn't an AK-47, it was an AKM, but it was a semi-automatic rifle. He had with him 270 rounds of ammunition, and he could have done a tremendous amount of damage. At the end of the day, there were only two people wounded on the train. One of them was one of the three Americans who was hurt because his neck was cut by the terrorist using a knife, and the other was a man who likely would have died if one of the young men had not known how to do some really good first aid. He was cut in his neck. He was bleeding from the neck badly, and you know that there are some major arteries that go through the carotid, among others, and this young man was able to get a finger on top of that artery and hold it closed until emergency workers boarded the train when the train finally came into the next stop, and so he saved a life. And the three of them likely saved a lot of people on that train. Could have been very bad. But as I said, that incident was over in maybe minutes. So the rest of the movie is about the backstory of these three young men. And young men whose moms had very strong faith in God, who didn't like the kinds of things that public schools, where government-run schools, were pushing at them, so they transferred them to Christian schools. And he even showed that the one young man, who was the hero, had tried out to be an Air Force PJ, a pararescueman, and failed because he lacked depth perception. So he went for a different role in the military, didn't give up, and then ended up having a successful time in the military. Another young man is from Roseburg, Oregon, here in the Northwest, named Alex Skarlatos, and he served in the Oregon National Guard. And these three were ready to do what had to be done when they were unarmed, barehanded, not even a knife, and this terrorist, armed with a pistol and a rifle and knives, began to attack people on this train. I thought it was a great telling of the story by Clint Eastwood.
And what was it like to go with your listeners?
I thought it was fantastic because it's nice for people to set aside some time in their evening to come and take part in something that I wanted to do. And we loved giving away the tickets. And I love the fact that I think Clint Eastwood is one of the finest movie directors in America, and he's one of the finest actors, and he has the guts to be a conservative in a place like Hollywood where ordinarily conservatives don't do very well, but Clint Eastwood sticks to his guns. And the man's incredibly talented. If you've ever seen Gran Torino, that's another great story that was done by Clint Eastwood, starring him and directed by him. This one, as I said, if you go expecting an action flick, there is some action at the end of it. But it's more the story of these three young men who were just average folks, but who were ready to do what had to be done when the time and the circumstances called them.
Lars Larson joining us on KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller with you. So, Lars, the big news over the weekend, I know you never stop working, was the Rob Porter controversy. As a man who tells it like it is, a family man, your thoughts?
Let's start with this. You don't hit girls. And guys don't hit girls. Girls shouldn't hit girls. And that applies that's a universal rule. Now, if you're a guy and decide to hit somebody else, it better be because you're defending your life or your your safety. And that's the only reason to strike out at somebody else. Mr. Porter may or may not have hit his ex-wives. I know, Kevin, when I got into the business as a reporter 43 years ago, one of the first things I learned was divorced couples often say a lot of things about each other that may or may not be true. Now, in this case, it sounds as though the FBI believes that the reports from his two ex-wives that he was incredibly brutal to them and vicious to them, and even on their honeymoons, that he had slugged one of his wives in the face, caused her to have a black eye. All of that is, of course, completely wrong. Now, here's the question I'd ask you. In Boise, should everyone who's ever committed an act like that and simply be denied any kind of position of responsibility? That's another question. And should the Trump administration have welcomed this man into its ranks, or should they have said, no, you've got this, these bad acts, not just once but twice with two different women, and we don't want you in our ranks? Perhaps they should have. I think there are people out there who want to make this a litmus test for Donald Trump, and I don't think it is. Donald Trump is not Rob Porter, and perhaps the staffing of the White House was a mistake, or at least in the case of Mr. Porter was a mistake, because they agreed to let him on, even though the FBI background check showed that this was in his background. So that's my take on it.
It seems to be, Lars, and again, you're on top of this. You know these folks. You've interviewed the president. They're using this to go after John Kelly, which many people have lauded his performance in getting some discipline to the White House. What do you make of John Kelly and the libs saying that he's not long for the role as chief of staff?
You know what? Hold on a second, Kevin. The New York Times and others were predicting that John Kelly would be gone by the end of January. What is it now? Closing in on the middle of February? As far as the mainstream media is concerned, they're like, you may be too young to remember this, but there was a woman named Jean Dixon who every year would make 400 or 500 predictions at the end of the year for the coming year. And then the next year they would always talk about the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 that she got right. If you make enough predictions, sooner or later you're going to be right. What people forget about is that the news media is not supposed to do this by making guesses. Well, I think they're going to fire him by the end of January. And then if you turn out to be wrong, everyone forgets to mention that. But if you turn out to be right now and then you're brilliant. You're a genius. You've got a crystal ball that works all day long. I think that you're going to see for the next 3 years consistent attacks on this administration that are all because the left and the Democrats and a certain number of rhino Republicans hate the idea that Donald Trump is president. They want to do anything they can to damage his presidency. Well, here's the problem with that. We hire presidents to do significant tasks for this country. Donald Trump, I think, is doing a very good job at that. So everyone who is trying to undercut his efforts to make things better for Americans, to make the government serve us the way the government should have been serving us and did not for the 8 long torturous years of the Obama administration, you should remember that those who are – it's one thing to criticize a president for things that are legitimately to be criticized. I mean, I criticized President Obama for many of his policies, but I think that this is a full-on attack on this president, which may or may not be justified in – I mean, at least in the case of Rob Porter, it appears they're right. It appears that the guy was a creep to his ex-wives and perhaps even assaulted them. I wish his ex-wives had charged him with assault. They did not. So, but does that mean that he should have been welcomed as a staffer of the White House? Perhaps not. But do you want to move on from this, or do you want to use this as a litmus test? The guy's been fired. He's gone. And now what would you like? Well, we'd like the chief of staff fired, and we'd like the press secretary fired. They want everybody in the Trump administration fired, and they want to make the place appear so toxic that Donald Trump can't get a team of people together to do the job. And being president means having hundreds of people who have to work with you. That job is not a one-man job anymore like it was when George Washington was president.
Lars Larson with us, Kevin Miller in the morning. Catch Lars tonight, 6 to 9 on KIDO Talk Radio. You can catch him at larslarson.com. Lars,
can I throw one in?
Sure.
Kim Jong-un's sister. The media seems to be having a slobbering love affair. Kim Jong-un's sister is stealing the show at the Winter Olympics. She's doing this. She's doing that. This is a woman she's not just the sister of Kim Jong-un. She is a part of the government. She heads up the propaganda efforts. Do you know what happens if you do anything regarding to push back against propaganda in North Korea? Let me give you an example. Mr. Warmbier, Otto Warmbier, who ended up murdered by North Korea because he had the temerity to take down a poster in North Korea. So this is a woman who's tied into a brutal regime that keeps 100,000 people in prisoner of war camps, starves most of the rest of the population, and if you're part of the Kim Jong-un administration and you displease the leader, they'll murder you. Right? I mean, in America, we fire people from political jobs. We don't murder them. We don't stand them in the middle of an open field and drop a howitzer or a mortar on top of them, as Kim Jong-un did to his uncle. Blew the guy up. So this woman that the media is fawning over at the Olympics is part of an administration that tortures people, that imprisons people, and that is starving people to death. How dare the media in our country have this slobbering love affair, or this amore that they're feeling toward Kim Jong-un's sister? It's really. I mean, I don't want to make the comparison, but let's say Mussolini's sister came to the Olympics back in the 40s. Would the media have written all these glowing tributes to Mussolini's sister or Hitler's sister? I mean, it's embarrassing. And it really tells you something about the media. They just seem to love to hate the United States of America, and they love the people who are pretty darned evil people, and she is one of them.
Well, my favorite is when President Trump pushes back against her brother, they go after President Trump for antagonizing the dictator who kills people all the time.
Yeah, and yet remember what this man is doing right now, and remember why he sent his sister there. He didn't send his sister there to open up diplomatic talks. He sent his sister there because North Korea is starting to feel the bite of some of these sanctions. Now, do I think sanctions are enough? I would hope they are, but I don't think they're going to be enough. I think this madman is bent on getting a full complement of nuclear weapons and the missiles capable of delivering them, as he has already. He already has missiles capable of delivering these weapons to the United States of America. This is a threat to the safety of our country. So the last person that the American news media should be fawning over is Kim Jong-un's sister.
Lars, finally, the internal war within the Republican Party. Again, you're very close to everyone, the Trump folks, the Bush folks. Is there an unwritten tension? Because you have a lot of former folks within the Bush administration highly critical of the Trump administration.
Well, let me suggest that some of this may be very, very simple to understand. Brother Jeb completely screwed up in the election. He spent $150 million, Jeb Bush, and he got 4% of the voters to like him. So I think the Bush family thought that they had a dynasty. You know, Herbert Walker Bush as president, George W. Bush as president. They saw Jeb. And so their antipathy toward Donald Trump is driven not only by the fact that their politics, which have always been closer to rhino politics, Republican in name only, do not match up with Donald Trump's politics. And that's one thing. But then he beat Brother Jeb, for the presidency, and that's another thing. And so I don't expect the Bush family to have anything good to say about Donald Trump, and I take all of their comments with that in mind. I like George W. Bush as president. I thought he was a much better choice than John Kerry or Al Gore. Al Gore, can you imagine what our country would have been like responding to 9/11 with Al Gore as president? It would have been a disaster. Having said that he served well as president, I think his family should keep its powder dry and shut up, because they're not being helpful to America to just sit on the sidelines and snipe because they don't like Donald Trump.
Lars Larson, you always bring it. We're so happy to have you on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, sir.
It's my pleasure. Take care.
All right, our great friend Lars Larson joining us. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
It's Dave Ramsey. Listen to me today, live at noon. And now back to my friend Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, now on 107.5 FM. That's 107.5 FM.
And let's go to Liberty Linda. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Liberty Linda, by the way, thank you for joining us at our 50 for 50 at Dave & Buster's. What a big crowd.
Oh, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I have my present I bought for you that I need to get it over to your office. You know, being the king, a nice mug. It says the king on it because you are the king of radio.
Oh, well, thank you. Did you have fun at the party?
It was absolutely wonderful. And, you know, the interesting thing is we always love it when your mother calls in. But we found out that your father is quite a storyteller also.
Yeah, I had to get on him because he doesn't think in radio terms. He just seemed he loved it. He loved the mic though, didn't he?
I thought he was wonderful, telling all those wonderful stories. Anyway, it made us feel so much a part of your family. And Dorothy, oh, she's lovely. What a good choice you made.
Well, I'm glad you approve.
Oh, she's just absolutely lovely person.
Well,
anyway,
and
it's a wonderful party. And, you know, John, when he plays the piano, he wears gloves.
I noticed that. And then we had Jeff the Suit there. He was there as well. The gang was all there. It was a big turnout.
Yes, I saw that. It was a big turnout. And what wonderful friends you have.
Well, we continue to fight on. You know, that's our goal, Liberty Linda, and you're a huge part of that to keep it all rolling. It doesn't stop. We've got to continue to work hard to grow this audience.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. I tell everyone about you. So,
it was interesting. I'm sorry, I was just going to say it was interesting that, you know, the only politician that showed up was Steve Yates.
I know. He was standing back there by me. We had quite a little chat. Very nice person. We always love when he comes on your show. And Lars Larson, too. I love listening to his show.
Well, he's a good guy, that Lars. I don't know where he gets the energy. He's always working, that guy.
I don't know. Anyway, I do have something to say, which I almost never do, but I do have something to say that I say no to the Convention of States, Kevin. And the reason I do is that, you know, I think it's kind of interesting how the Dems are just kind of sitting back and being very quiet, just waiting to get their hands on our Constitution. You know, it's kind of like, do we like what they're doing to California? What do you think they will do if they get their hands on our Constitution?
Well, on the other hand, we would argue that they already do. They already have our hands on the Constitution. Look, the courts are running wild, making things up all the time, and we just sit here and take it.
Yeah, we still don't have an answer to what's going on with the Russian, with the memo, and you know, and it's kind of like after a year, you know, even if we prove that there's nothing to it, you know, we're just tired of hearing about it.
Well, now they're trying to get General Kelly.
They're going to, I don't know. I just feel it's all made up. And let's get on to more important things for our nation. I do not like that our president signed that thing regarding the Planned Parenthood. You know, definitely against that. We love our babies, and we want to keep them.
Indeed. Indeed we do. Liberty Linda, anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, just happy birthday again. It was wonderful, and meeting your whole family, and thankful they were able to come out here and share all that.
Well, thank you, Liberty Linda. You take care.
You as well, Kevin. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And let's get you to traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning, and back to what Liberty Linda said. What a great time we had at the KIDO Talk Radio 50 for 50. Do want to thank our great friends in promotions, Joey and George and Jimmy, Triple J, if you will. Jeff the Suit was there. My parents, my wife. It was great. Reverend Bill, Tea Party Bob. And it was interesting because, you know, it's fascinating when we're looking at politicians and we've got this uber competitive political season. And you had about 100, 150 people at our event at Dave & Buster's, and it was shocking to me that the people that are purporting to be, and look, we didn't invite people. We just said, hey, it's out there, just like the State of the Union Party. So we had one person for the State of the Union Party, David Leroy, and then we had one person for the 50 for 50. That was Steve Yates, who brought some food for the Boise Rescue Mission. But, you know, for the people that are always saying, hey, I want to be part of the community, just was odd. I mean, you have the politicians, and look, they have paid political consultants that tell them what to do. and make a lot of money doing that, but to be in front of 150 voters or over 300 voters, and yet you'll go to the morning exchange in wherever and be in front of 10 to 20 people. I don't know. The state of campaigning here is fascinating to me, considering it's such a hyper-competitive field in every race. I'm surprised we didn't have more folks there. But again, it wasn't about them, but it sure would have helped them meet a lot of people. But that's why they're on the pancake and buttermilk syrup, and we're changing lives. Boy, there's a humble statement. I retract that one. Can't smack people for being full of themselves and then be full of myself. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Treasure Valley. Catch me, Sean Hannity, today at 3. Now it's back to my friend. I've known him for years. Great guy, Kevin Miller, right here on KIDO Talk Radio, now on 107.5 FM. That's right, 107.5 FM.
And 8:35 our time. Liz Colton joining us here. Sleep in Heavenly Peace, a nonprofit that really helps kids sleep because they give them beds. Liz, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Right, good to have you here at KIDO Talk Radio. So just move into the microphone a little. And, there's a big event coming up tonight. Before we get to that, though, tell us a little bit about your organization.
So Sleep in Heavenly Peace started in Kimberly, Idaho in 2011 and expanded to Boise just a few months later. And we build bunk beds from scratch for kids that don't have beds, and then give them brand new beds, mattresses, pillows, sheets, quilts, kind of the works. To kids in need. And last year in the Treasure Valley, we gave over 102 bunk beds to kids that needed them.
Is that shocking to know that there are kids that need beds here in the Treasure Valley, considering economically we're doing a lot better than we were a few years ago?
It's very shocking. I already have just so far this year 120 kids that need beds. And that's just since Christmas Day until now. So that's more than we had at this time last year. So, yeah, the numbers just keep growing.
And because of your work, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, a very distinguished young man has decided to profile you tonight on Facebook. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I don't want to tip it off. I'd rather have you tell us about it.
Okay, back in November, my husband and family and I traveled down to Twin Falls with the rest of the chapter presidents from Sleep in Heavenly Peace, and we were able to meet Mike Rowe, who has a new Facebook show called Returning the Favor. And he decided to profile our little nonprofit and came down, and we got to meet him and showed him how we build beds. And he actually got to go on a delivery with our CEO and kind of see what we do. And so tonight at 10 p.m. Mountain Time, our episode hits the airwaves on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that Facebook show. It really is something. What was it like to be a part of that?
It was fun. My husband and I have loved Mike Rowe for a long time. We've watched him on Dirty Jobs, and one of our favorite shows is Deadliest Catch, and he does the voiceover for that. So he's just a real down-to-earth guy. Really loved what we did. My kids all got to meet him. He actually took a picture with our whole family. Very approachable, but it was really fun. And it was fun because we actually got to meet some of the chapter presidents from across the country that we've never met as well.
What was and the Facebook show again?
Returning the Favor.
Returning the Favor. It's a very different show. I've watched a few episodes, and it really is about the good news and the unsung works that go on that Sleep in Heavenly Peace are a part of. Yeah,
it is. And we've watched quite a few of last season's episodes, just kind of getting ready for our episode launching tonight. And yeah, he just looks for people that are doing good and helping out their communities, and that's what we're trying to do here in Boise.
Well, what can people do here in the Treasure Valley?
We're a nonprofit, so we're totally run through donations. Not one of us is paid. My husband and I volunteer our time, and so we look for people to help us financially. We have a website where they can go. It's www.shpbeds.org. And we actually just launched a store on, I think it was Friday night, where people can go and they can buy T-shirts and hats and actually just donate money. There's different levels that they can donate to help us buy mattresses and the wood and the pillows and the sheets and things so we can keep getting kids off the floor and into new beds.
When we take a look at the needs, what type of families are impacted by your work?
It's mostly just working class, sometimes low-income families that are just struggling most of the time just to put food on the table and pay the bills. And so beds for their kids are not high on the list that they can afford. We work with a lot of the school districts throughout the Treasure Valley to find these families. And it's all over the Treasure Valley. It's not just one area.
And when you're doing this, you're working your day job and everything else, right? You guys are all volunteers?
Yep. We are all volunteers.
So where do you get the time to do it?
A lot of evening times, weekends. I only work part-time, so I do a lot of volunteer hours throughout the day in and around my part-time job. So it's just whatever hours in the day we can squeeze it in, we're doing it.
Returning the Favor tonight at 10 o'clock on Facebook. What do you think will be the most revealing part of this? Do you know?
I actually haven't seen the episode, but I think people will just be able to see how we help kids and really just how we've come together and started off in our CEO's garage, building one bed in 2011 to I think we have delivered over 1,000 beds just in 6 years.
If people would like to get involved, Liz, what can they do?
They can contact me through our website or through our Facebook page. They just have to look up Sleep in Heavenly Peace Boise. My contact info is on both of those locations.
So that's Sleep in Heavenly Peace Boise.
Yep, on Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yep.
And you'll need materials. You need money. What would help the most?
Money is always great. We work with a lot of different companies. Lowe's is one of our main sponsors. We work with a Lowe's in Meridian, and those guys are fantastic. We work with a company in Utah that provides the mattresses for us at their costs. But I love it. At Christmas time, I had a couple of different church groups that donated bedding. So we got pillows and sheets and quilts. And I have so many quilts or sheets and pillows right now that I will be able to probably get 60 kids off the floor just with what I got at Christmas time. So they're more than welcome to just bring us bedding. Anything at this point helps.
Returning the Favor on Facebook tonight. Finally, Liz, can you describe what it's like when you deliver a bed?
That's probably my favorite part. I'm a former teacher, and so I worked with kiddos that didn't have a lot. And so going in a home and having them, we assemble the bed for them right in their home and make it up with their brand new bedding. And one of my favorites was a little girl who just got underneath those covers and she would not get out of the covers. It was like 95 degrees outside and she was buried underneath her covers going, "Oh, I have a bed, I have a bed." And it's just heartbreaking to see some of the conditions these kids live in. And so to be able to give them some place to sleep that's warm and comfortable, and it's heartwarming for our family. We love it.
And that's changing lives right here in the Treasure Valley.
It is.
Well, again, Sleep in Heavenly Peace Boise tonight on Facebook. Returning the Favor. Any other micro stories you want to share with us real quick? He's the real deal. He's
the real deal. We love him. He's funny. We have almost 7-year-old twins, and he got down with all the kids that were there and just talked to them, talked with my teenage boys, autographed their hats for them. I mean, he's a genuine, real deal guy.
All right. Sleep in Heavenly Peace Boise on Facebook. Liz Colton, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. We'll love to have you back. Let's go to Tea Party Bob. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you? It seems like you got through everything okay. So now that you've made it through the milestone of your 50th birthday, are you ready to take on the world by storm?
Only under your direction.
That was a great party. Nice to see so many of the people in the Treasure Valley that listen to the show and who took the time to come down and celebrate with you. I'd love to know how you talked that piano player into bringing his piano down there in a pickup truck to Dave & Buster's to play for your party.
That was John from Weezer, and John volunteered, and we certainly thank him, playing with gloves on, a piano that he made himself.
Wow. I can't wait for your 60th birthday party. Rumor has it that you're going to rent out Ruth Chris for the night and hire the Grateful Dead to perform.
I'd have to be a deadhead for that, yeah.
Just a word from the political front. It is too bad that more candidates didn't come down to take advantage of coming to your party and meeting so many conservatives in one place. But then maybe we don't have as many conservatives running for offices as we think. The Gem State has put up its last poll for early indications of leaders for the primary races. This is the one for lieutenant governor, so people can go to the Gem State Patriot Facebook or to our blog and vote for the candidate of their choice. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoy the next 10 years because they're going to be great for you.
Well, I appreciated winning the inaugural Gem State Patriot Man of the Year award.
Well, that's the first time we put something out. It's our 5th anniversary, and we're all about patriotism. We're all about God and country. We're all about getting the truth out there. And the simple fact that you do so much for this community in the Treasure Valley, and so many times we don't tell people how good they are and how important they are. And I thought that this would kind of maybe wake a few people up. Being the first time we've ever done anything like this, to give out a Patriot of the Year award is very significant for us because, as you know, we're quite critical many times of people who talk out of the other side of their mouth. And I think that you're one of the few people who actually speak the truth on the radio and in person. Certainly it doesn't come from a lot of our politicians. So I hope you'll continue to do what you're doing for many years in the future, because without you, we don't have a place to talk. You are the soapbox for the Treasure Valley for all those who want to get the word out, whether it's for helping people or for politically motivated people or for just getting on and spilling their guts out and telling people how they feel about certain things that are going on. But again, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And many, many, many good years to come for you, my friend.
I appreciate you making sure Jim from Star was kept in line.
That's difficult. We're going to have to put some chains on that, man.
Tea Party Bob, Gem State Patriot, GemStatePatriot.com. Thank you, sir.
Have a great day, Kevin.
You too. Let's go to our great friend Peyton, Young Conservatives of Idaho. Peyton, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. So, I just wanted to say you're having a great show today. You had a great show today. The people you bring on are awesome.
That's what they call the deep state. The deep state got Peyton. Anyway, Peyton, thank you for the call. Hopefully we'll get him back. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I urge you to watch that Mike Rose show. Certainly we appreciate Liz Colton for coming on, a young lady who she and her husband and so many other volunteers make bunk beds for folks in the Treasure Valley. You know, that's the beauty of the place we live in. And I understand there are other places where people donate and stuff, but making bunk beds for kids so they can sleep. And how many of us, we can all be guilty of this. Well, we see one of our peers, we see somebody else, we see some other folks doing certain things, and we think, well, why aren't we at that level? Why aren't we such and such? And then you have Liz Colton and her husband and others from Sleep in Heavenly Peace, that's Sleep in Heavenly Peace Boise, that are doing things in quiet anonymity. But Mike Rowe figured that out, and they're going to be on his Facebook show tonight, Returning the Favor. And that's at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. If you haven't seen Returning the Favor, for me, it's Mike Rowe's best show because it's all about people doing good things. And isn't that what our country, isn't that what our state, isn't that what the Treasure Valley is all about? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Glenn Beck is next. Now, back to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM and 580 AM.
Blessed to be a part of your day. Back to Peyton. Hopefully the deep state doesn't get him this time. Good morning, Peyton.
Sorry, Kev. I just wanted to say, news that you bring out and radio stations, local news stations like you, are so important, and I'm so happy you guys are around, because without that, people just get the mainstream media, and that's not even news. In fact, news, posters, things on TV, radio that have a political agenda and they're obviously biased for a political side, that's propaganda. That's basically the definition of propaganda. So that's not news. That's propaganda. You haven't heard a single positive thing about President Trump for a whole year. That's propaganda. And I'm just glad that we have champions like you, Sean Hannity, other people. There's many others that give us the real news, and I'm thankful for that. But I honestly can't believe that memo and all of this stuff is what's bringing them down. That surprises me, because they've been corrupt and done some way worse things. So I can't believe this happens to be the Achilles heel. But, I mean, the things that WikiLeaks has come out with, there's way more things that they are involved in. Hopefully this is just the tip of the iceberg and they uncover the rest and don't just stop at the tip. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I wanted to say that I love the people that you bring on. It gives us good insight. Everyone has a voice. And I'm just really happy to say that you are a member of our community, and we have you here in Idaho. Also, happy birthday. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I've had some crazy things going on. But I want to wish you a happy birthday as well.
Thank you, Peyton. God bless.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's get you to traffic and weather. And I'm Kevin Miller. You know, as we move along and we start the day, and again, negativity can be so powerful in our lives. There is just glimmers of hope, and as Peyton just talked about, it's our duty to shine a light on them. And like I said, I love what Liz Colton's doing, returning the favor with Mike Rowe tonight. That's going to be big. We've got this young man coming to the Treasure Valley. You can read about it at KIDOTalkRadio.com. We'll have him on. The Preston Sharp, the beauty of Donald Trump, and like a lot of us, Donald Trump isn't perfect, but to highlight a little boy from Redding, California, who is coming to the Treasure Valley to lay carnations and flags on the graves of our soldiers and veterans is beautiful. And that's the America that we grew up in, and that's the America that we argue for and fight for and, will not let be marginalized. That's the beauty of it. Last night I was at church with my parents, and I heard a homily from a gentleman I have the utmost respect for, Father Len. And there's a crisis of faith going on, perhaps, within the Treasure Valley Catholic community. And you had the bishop of the Diocese of Boise, Bishop Peter, issue a statement. That's the big guy in the church here. And he was, saddened by what happened with Father Forche and wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the church is not backing Father Forche. They're not paying his rent or his legal defenses. And it is a tragedy when you see this, but it is, in to echo the comments of Father Len McMullen last night, that were very emotional. A man who has dedicated himself to God, a person that I look up to, Father Len. There are so many good stories, and there are so many good priests and pastors that go on that you shouldn't let these stories impact your faith. And people, will attack the Catholic Church just like they've attacked other places. But it's our duty, as I said, the Miller Minute, to, if we see something suspicious, to say something and to keep going until those issues are resolved. So many times in the past that hasn't been the case. But you can't allow the negativity and the reporting to influence your decisions. And, I pray for the good priests. I pray that the bad ones are found out. As I was sitting there last night, and people always say, well, Kevin, you don't really talk about your life much. And really my life is very simple. It is to serve God, to be there for my family, and to serve you all. And that's really what it is. This is a show about values in people, and we try to make it entertaining. But, I was blown away by just the two emotions of, people of faith, and in this case Catholics, which I happen to be one of, coming together and embracing faith on a Sunday night, and then the beauty of the children's choir. Those of you that are parents, which good old Kay Millie will never be one of, but have the utmost respect for, I'm just sitting there listening to the brilliance of the children's choir last night and the innocence there and the beauty and how we have to protect it against these predators. And we can go back to the Jerry Sandusky case. I would like to think that if I were one of these people, Mike McCurry or whatever, I wouldn't care about my job, because sometimes it matters more than a football game or anything else to protect our beloved children and grandchildren. They are so precious and so beautiful that is our duty. And just because you have one person who is accused, not yet convicted, that doesn't mean you condemn an entire faith or condemn the faith yourself. God said we would go through trying times. And look, I give the people I work with here a hard time, but I'm always free to talk about God. I'm blessed. We're blessed to be in a community where God is an important part of our lives. Faith is. Faith can be shaken, and we always wonder why do good things happen or bad things happen to good people? Well, that's what faith is about. We don't have all the answers. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. So I urge you to keep the faith, and I say that all the time. And I want to thank each and every one of you that either have prayed for us and continue to pray for us, or pray for the people of this show and support this show. It is crucial that we need you. We're, this is small business, and, we appreciate each and every one of you. I want to thank everybody that showed up at Dave & Buster's or couldn't make it because you're working. God bless Security Guard Mike, in between two jobs, stopped in to say, hey. That's the America and the Americans that are going to make a difference, our role models. So God bless you all. Ray and Maya, outstanding job for getting us rolling to start the week. Good day, God bless, and keep the faith.